Hi everyone, welcome back to the second season of the Next Level Podcast. It feels surreal to be saying that. Honestly, when we did the Next Level last year, I was a bit like, will we ever survive the first season? But here we are on season 2. And I'm joined today by Sumin. Hello.
Hello. Oh my God, I'm the first episode.
Yes, you are.
Yes.
No pressure.
Yeah, no pressure, totally.
Did you listen to season 1 at all?
Yeah, I did.
How did you find it? How did you like it?
I loved it. You had really, really good personalities.
Really, right?
Yeah.
Honestly, like when I was sitting on this couch, this very same couch, I was like listening to all the conversations and whatnot, and I was like, damn, everyone's journey. And of course, like I'm so happy that you said yes to this show because I have seen your works on Instagram, on TikTok as well.
Oh,
so
thank
it's
you.
like, I would love to be able to find out more about your journey and whatnot.
Thank you.
So maybe you can tell everyone a little bit more about like your background and also a quick introduction to your journey so far.
Okay, I think my background is very long, so I'm just gonna introduce myself first. Hi everybody, my name is Simin. I'm a freelance body artist and I'm the founder of Hand Drawn. So what is Hand Drawn? Hand Drawn is an artist collective where we focus on doing temporary body art using Jagua ink. And Jagua ink is made from a fruit-based ink that originates from South America that gives off like a very tattoo blue color. Yeah, so it's like a lot of people like compare it with henna, but it's actually super different. It's made of different materials, but they kind of work the same way.
Right.
Yeah, and I draw it freehand.
Wow. Yes, I've seen your work. It's a very, very talented person.
Thank you.
But I definitely love to find out more about like why and how you even got into this side of the business, right? So like how did you first get acquainted with the art form?
So actually everything started with like a very, very pure intention of me wanting to earn pocket money when I was in university.
Yes.
And like at a point in time, I wasn't getting a lot of pocket money like from my parents. And I really wanted to like put the burden off like my mom's shoulder. So I took up like multiple jobs like yogurt girl, I teach tuition, I like do random things, I'll be a waitress at a cafe, and then like I found this where I could just draw for a living and I get paid like quite a decent amount. So I actually went to Mustafa to get like a $1 henna cone.
Okay.
Then yeah, and that's how everything started because I was like really, really obsessed with body art at that point in time. I think now still it's been something that has been recurring in my life. Like, in secondary school, people think that I'm listening in class, but I'm drawing on my own hand. Like,
Yes.
yeah, so I'm that person in school. And I think henna just made it like less toxic and as in the medium itself as compared to pen ink, more long lasting. And slowly, I gradually like shifted towards like I want to look more like a real tattoo. But henna doesn't really give that vibe because it's brown and stuff. So I was always manifesting like an ink that is organic and safe, yet still be able to achieve the look of a real tattoo.
Yeah.
And just somehow, I don't know how, but it landed on my explore page. Yeah, like international henna
way.
artists that I was following at that point in
Okay.
time, they were trying out this new ink. And I was so shocked that I thought that they tattooed their own traditional henna designs on their own hands.
Yes.
Yeah, and turned out it wasn't the case. And I researched more and more, and I was like, oh my God, like this thing is very expensive lah. Like to me then as a student, 19-year-old student, but it was like my selfish desire that I want to get a real tattoo, but I can't. So this really looks like a real tattoo, and it's not permanent. So I decided to just import it. And I think what started off as me trying to solve my own selfish problem of not being able to not being able to find like a good part-time job or like a well-paying one and not being able to have a tattoo, it became like something that actually a lot of people also desire.
Actually, when you said how realistic it looks, I got reminded of the first time I came across your work, and it was Ben King.
Oh.
So I was shocked. I was like, oh my God, Ben got tattoo sleeve, and I was like, Ben, like tattoo, and he's like, no, it's not. It's temporary. So I was like, oh, so that's how I got introduced to your stuff. And yes, like the ink really, really looks legit.
Yeah.
Anyway, you mentioned that like you were in school, right, in
Yeah.
uni. What were you studying back then?
I was studying sociology.
So very, very different from
Yeah.
from what you're doing now. So like,
Yeah.
I mean, you also mentioned, your parents and whatnot. Like, how did you kind of convince them that, hey, even though I went to uni for sociology, I think I want to do like henna art or body art as a career. Like, how do you have that conversation with them?
I feel like the conversation didn't really happen. I just stumbled into the art form. Yeah, because I always could use the excuse like, oh, I'm still studying, I'm not doing this seriously. I'm just like doing this for fun, it's a hobby, part-time job. And then it started to really take off until I have to like call off my honours. So I just got a bachelor's. I just stopped at year 3 and I had to do this full time.
Right.
Yeah. So it's like maybe at first I maybe like hinted my mom that I wanted to take it seriously. And then she totally just flew off her head. She just didn't realize that I was being serious. Then until like when I graduated and then I still wasn't going like 9 to 5 job, right? Then she was like, oh, when are you going to find a full-time job? And I'm like, I'm already doing it now.
Right. So it's kind of like a show then tell.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. So actually, like, you know, have your parents actually seen you at work at all?
Yeah, because my home studio, I mean, my studio is at home, so she has definitely always witnessed like me drawing and all that. So I think that really helped the stereotype that she used to have regarding tattoos.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I mentioned briefly about how she didn't allow me to get tattoos last time, right? It's basically because she thinks that people will think that I'm an alien. Yeah, or like people will think like badly of me. But I think after she saw more and more of my work, she learned how to appreciate the beauty of tattoos.
Right.
Yeah, so now when she walk past, when I'm doing a client, right, then she will stand there, then she will look and she'll be like, wow, nice, very nice.
It's truly an art form though. And that reminds me, you know, when I look at your profile, it says like mindful artist, right? So like what is that term about? Like why mindful artist?
I think it started all because of one client. I mean, many clients, but like this one client really changed my whole perspective of how I look at my art form. I used to think that I was just giving people a temporary solution to like a permanent decision. But basically this client, she came to me and she said she wanted to write the phrase, "You are enough," on her collarbone. And I, out of curiosity and also like just to chat a little bit, I asked her like, why do you want to have this on yourself? And I was drawing, right? And then after that, right, when I asked that question, there was silence, like complete silence. And I was like, eh? Then I looked up. She was crying.
Oh no.
Yeah, she was bawling. And it took her a while to settle down. And basically, it was the first time that she came into contact with her pain. Like, she booked an appointment with me with that intention, but there was never really a space where she could really come into contact with the reason why she even wanted to be here, or the reason why she wanted to tell herself like, you are enough. And I found that that's just so amazing to me, how I could access that level of human connection through my art. I was like, I never really saw it as a way like I could use my drawings and my art as a way of or as a tool for people to communicate. Yeah, and I think my art form really holds space for that. Also because like of the human to human contact and like the one-to-one like talking and like the strangers you meet, then it's like, I don't know, it's like, you know, you go hairdresser, you tell the hairdresser everything. Yeah, so that's me also. Yeah, but this is just like an added layer because people not just like, they don't just get like a temporary tattoo, but they get something that they want to celebrate or to embody, to symbolize, to express for that season of their life. So I think to me, that is the magical part of it. And I wanted to highlight it with being like the mindful artist.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. I mean, when we look at like tattoos or body art today, you know, I really see it as, especially with our generation, I see it as kind of like an extension of who you are as an individual and kind of like expressing who you are on the outside as well. So I can definitely imagine like why and understand why, you know, someone would want to be able to like show what their inner thoughts are and also inner feelings are with regard to that. So yeah, like absolutely listening to the story was so like powerful actually. Was there one point when you looked at, you know, this, because you did say that it started out for fun, it started out as a selfish need, and then now you're telling me that you're servicing clients and everything. At what point did you say, okay, I'm going to commit myself to this as like something that I'll do full time?
Maybe when I was having like existential crisis every single month as a freelancer, and I was like, okay, this needs to stop. Like this like constant oscillating and fearing for like what is to come for the next month and all that. I mean, because I was just having a lot of fun, right? I don't think I laid down a lot of strategies of like how I really wanted it to work as a full-time career. So I think like that breakdown was the inspiration of all this now.
Got it. So what was that first step that you did? When you said, okay, I'm gonna be serious. Like, did you go to Google and search like how do you strategize a business? Like, what was your first step?
Well, honestly, I don't know. I've been a very, very intuitive person. So I just did what I felt was right. Like, for example, setting up a website, baby steps, and then creating ways for people to find me, or inspiring people who chance upon my website or my Instagram page, inspire them to see the value in my work and like to book me.
Right.
Yeah. So like it started out from like very simple things like creating the basic awareness, the exposure, and creating information that allows people to have easy access to, for example, like all the booking, all the FAQs that I've been getting, blah, 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 blah. So it's like slowly, then I just see like other businesses or other like creative accounts and what they were doing, and I'm like, oh, that's nice, I want to adopt that also. So I slowly built all that.
So take things step by step, basically.
Yeah.
I actually absolutely agree with you because, I feel like we all have this idea that everything that we do in life needs to have this like full plan or full strategy and whatnot.
Yeah.
And I think that's a very Singaporean thing as well. Like, we go into exams with like 10-year series that we can go through and everything. But sometimes, post school, right, the real life doesn't have a 10-year series and you really have to figure things out as they go.
Exactly.
Where I'm currently standing is that like I also am just starting my own business. So for the first time ever, there's all these different new things that I have to figure out and learn. And, sometimes I speak to people who are entrepreneurs and whatnot, and they will always say like, okay, what's your plan? Like walk me through your plans. And sometimes I'm like, I only have the basics right now. I don't really have like a full strategy.
Yeah.
But deep down, I feel like, okay, I think I'll be fine, as long as you grow and you take the experience to learn. I think that will be like good enough lah.
Yeah, exactly. I think nothing has to be perfect and set in stone, because perfection only comes from the editing after. Yeah, like when you try out different techniques and you're like, okay, maybe this part doesn't work, then I edit like through many times of failures and all that. So I don't think you have like a perfect grand plan right from the start, especially as a beginner.
Yeah.
Right? So,
and especially in industries where they're still forming and still new, and ever changing, right?
Exactly.
Anyway, you did mention earlier that you have a team. Did I hear that wrongly? You have a team?
I do.
So I would love to find out more about the hand-drawn team, right? So let's start from the basics first. Like, how did that name came up? I mean, I think it's quite straightforward, and also, it is what you see, hand-drawn. But like, how did you think of that name?
How actually my friend helped me with this. Like I wanted to have a name that is catchy and was something kind of like when you see it, then you will relate it to henna. At the point in time, I was using henna only ma. Yeah, and then at first I was like, okay, should I use freehand or like hand drawn? But like freehand, was afraid that people would think that it's free. Yeah, then then I just like hand drawn, not bad, hand drawn. Then it just became a thing.
Right.
Yeah, I think last time younger, you don't need to be perfect, right? So like you make decisions very swift, and then on retrospect, you look back like actually not too bad. Yeah, I'm glad I was like so like gutsy last time.
Yes, and it's a very nice name. I would say that.
Thank you.
Yeah, like so. What is the business like now? Like, do you and your team work off like a shop or a home studio? Like, how does this work?
Okay, so I have 2 artists under me. So one is an apprentice and one is like a senior artist.
Okay.
So all the senior artists, they are in their respective home studios. So basically me, I'm also in my own home studio. And Xue Han, my senior artist, is in her own home studio in Punggol. So we kind of like service like 2 different ends of Singapore.
Right.
Yeah, and for my apprentice, because she's still under my wing, so she is currently doing appointments at my home studio as well, and also occasionally in town. Yeah, when so we kind of like serve like 3 different geographical locations, strategic in that way.
Right, got it. So one of my conversations with creators or creative people is that when one person is so involved in creating the brand or the style or the taste of the brand, right? Like expanding the team means having to teach other people how to follow the same like vibe of the
Yeah.
company and whatnot. So did you struggle with that, having, because I would think that every artist has their own style, every artist has their own way of doing things, like
Yeah.
especially today where everyone's so expressive, right? Like, did you face any difficulties having people having team members follow like the hand-drawn vibe?
I think on the contrary, I actually let them be whoever they want.
Okay.
And like do whatever they like. Yeah, I don't really expect people to draw exactly like me. Maybe only in the beginning where I started to have more artists, right? It was more of the client side of expectations that I have to manage.
Right.
Because everybody was expecting my style or my level of techniques. So yeah, maybe they go to another artist and then they will be a bit disappointed, like, oh, this is not what I expected. But it's like inevitable because it's not me, right? So that was what I struggled with more. So basically, it's just more like, how to say, like just informing the public, like the client side, like the different styles that we have.
Right.
Yeah, and just honoring each artist in their own right.
That's nice. So how would you explain or describe the hand-drawn brand and also your brand then for separately, or are they the same, Or do you see hand-drawn as like a collective of artists now in that sense,
I think hand-drawn is a collective of artists, but I think the artists have this same vein where we are all quite mindful and self-aware.
Okay.
Yeah, so we like to see it in the perspective of using body art to channel whatever messages you want to say to yourself during this season of life. Yeah, so I think like quite mindful and same-ish in that aspect. Yeah, but the brand of hand-drawn, wow. Well, very difficult to ask me to say, right? Because it's just like the vibe is like that.
That's true. I get it though.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's all right. When I look at the brand, right, I also want, like, I feel like after speaking to so many people who have gone through their journeys, I know that the journey to like being successful and also comfortable is not an easy one. Obviously, there will be a lot of obstacles and also challenges that you have to navigate. Like, were there any that you had to overcome when you were just starting out as a business?
So many, so many.
Able to share some?
Okay, I think to me, the most difficult part is like the admin and the operational side of things. I was not business trained. I was not like properly art school trained. So I didn't know what was the workflow of this. Like, I didn't know how to create, like when you receive money, you must send receipt.
Yes.
Or like in like quotation, what you must put in the quotation, that kind of thing. Like all these terms and conditions, like only like when other freelancers they teach me, then I'm like, oh, okay, like I need to do this, I need to do that. So I think that was like the super big obstacle. I am still currently
Working it out.
Yeah, working it out like every day. I mean, the admin side, I'm a very scattered, like big picture person. So like all the small little details, I feel like it was also a turning point for me to learn that I am just one person.
Yes.
Even though I would love to be the ultimate mastermind behind a brand, I cannot control every single detail.
Got it.
Yeah.
So you did mention that you learn a lot from like your friends who are freelancers as well. Were there any other sources of information that you got your learnings from?
Oh yes, yeah. I basically I learned from like everywhere, like from books and like from thought leaders like Chris Do.
Yes, love him.
I
Yes.
love him
He's
so
very
much.
good.
Yeah. He's like my creative entrepreneurship like Bible.
Yes. He's very, very good. And he like the way he talks makes you so confident about like your own endeavors.
I know, right?
He's very, very good.
He's so good.
Did you go for internships before or like part-time jobs?
Oh yes, but my internships were not really related to what I am doing now. But I mean, they still teach me skills. Like, for example, I was interning at Intuitive Films, a video production film, as an assistant producer. And I kind of forgot everything that I learned, technically, as an AP, as in all the course sheet and all that. I still can't remember. But my greatest takeaway was the whole voice of the whole company. My boss then, he taught me so many mindset tools that were integral to my journey now. Like, I think this quote that he always says, and it stuck by me until now, like it's been, I think, 5 years, was until you make the subconscious conscious, you would... Wow, I'm butchering this moment. I forgot the next line. Until you make the subconscious conscious, you would something resign and call it like fate.
Right.
I'm so sorry. You can Google.
But yes, Google it. Or we can just like find it later and then put it in, you know. Like, or the YouTube one, we can just put it here, the quote. But yes, I do think the takeaway is that, like, you know, internships are actually very valuable, you know. I agree with you in that sometimes things can seem just so overwhelming, but experience in the industry, or, you know, actually any industry, gives you the experience to learn workflow processes, and really just hands-on experience in understanding how things work. Actually, when I was in uni, my friends and I were like, yeah, we can do our own stuff, you know, like, don't need to look for a job. Let's just do our own thing. And then, like, so while my friends all got like full-time jobs after I graduated, I was like, okay, I'm going to do my own stuff. And I totally flopped because I didn't understand, because I feel like in the school environment, you're very sheltered, you know, like you're independent, yes, but then you don't have to understand how the real world works. But then when I went into the real world, I feel like, shit, there's so many things I don't know how to do, you know, and there's so many different types of expectations that come with client work and whatnot. So then I realized that, okay, maybe I'm not entirely prepared yet, you know. So I decided to join a full-time job and then understand exactly how things work, right?
Nice.
And then, you know, from there that we now I'm basically full circle. You know, whatever I learned, I'm applying it to like what I'm doing now as well. So
nice.
it's definitely something that I think like everyone should definitely be open to. I would say that if you have time, or if you have, you know, a school break or whatever, just go for internships. You know, you can have words of wisdom that you'll hold dear for your entire life. If not, you'll also develop hard skills that you also, you know, build when you enter your career path that you desire.
I agree.
100%.
100%.
All right. And this is going to be my favorite part of the podcast, because this is the part where we ask our guests all about the tips that they've learned throughout the entire journey, and we'll be sharing them with you for free. So y'all better start taking out your notepads and pens and start writing these tips down. So Simin, question for you, okay? I know that your journey has been very long so far. So I want you to take a trip down memory lane and look at, you know, when it comes to tips that you can share with maybe someone who's just starting out, thinking of starting the career. What are some tips you can share with them?
I think my most practical advice that I can give is knowing your place in the market, and that comes from knowing the value of the work that you are serving. I think this might be a bit daunting for newcomers, especially people who maybe just freshly graduated and you're so lost, you don't even know what you want to do, you won't even know how you want to serve. But just be brave, man. Like, just do the first thing that excites you, and slowly you'll be able to find your place. And sometimes the value that your work gives, maybe it doesn't come from you. Like, the answer will not come from you immediately, but you will definitely find it from other people. And practical side wise, right, I think knowing your place in the market, which also includes like knowing what resources that you have, where you came from. For example, my background wasn't the best, and I knew I didn't really have a lot of resources. So as compared to like maybe a fine artist, I think that is like, you might need quite a good background. You might need to know a good list of art curators, art collectors and all that. I knew I don't have that. And in order for me to go through like the art route, right, I have to do something that is more accessible and
basically being resourceful, is it?
Yes, I think that's what I'm trying to say. Yeah. Yeah, I think like knowing your strengths and your weaknesses, like personally, and also like your environment, and just being very strategic in like your goals, I think that will really, really help in the future, and like making it sustainable for you.
Absolutely. And I think that probably means manifesting in the form of taking a step back and understanding like the full picture of things, you know. So you absolutely know what your interests are, what your goals are, and then understanding what are the steps that you can take, you know, and working towards that. You know, we did say everything that we do, we take it step by step, but there's also kind of like a general idea that we need to like put ourselves in, right? Like we have a general goal and then we kind of see, okay, you know, like perhaps option A might be a little bit too expensive, or option B is like, you know, geographically impossible for us to accomplish. Maybe we can look at option EF, you know, and whatnot. Maybe the route to our goal is a little bit longer, you know, compared to certain individuals, but doesn't mean that we can't take those new routes as well, you know. So that's something that I would definitely agree with you on. When it comes to working with a team, right? Are there any tips that you can share? Because I realized that if let's say someone wants to start a business, right? You mentioned earlier that you are just one person as well. And I'm sure that you now see the value of having like more people to work with and whatnot. So when it comes to managing teams or putting together or working with other people, like are there any tips that you can share?
I think you have to first recognize that your greatest strength is also your biggest flaw. So you have to be really, really self-aware. Like, for example, I'm a very, very emotional person. And maybe that works well in having a lot of empathy and being able to just form like good rapport with the people I'm working with. But that is not strategic. If you look at it in a business perspective, it's just like maybe tactical. Like I'm just making things move, but maybe they are like moving in all sorts of directions. Yeah. So being very self-aware, right, will also allow you to realize that there are so many more perspectives other than your own. And it's really putting in the self-work. Like I think everything is just like always boil down to like doing self-work to know what is your own strength, your own weaknesses. And if people can fill it in for you, like try not to think that you are better than other people lah.
Yeah, 100%. Actually, you know, when I look at positions like ours where we get to choose the team that we work with, right? Like, what is your criteria? You know, do you find people who are similar to you, or do you find people who have fundamental differences from you? Because different people have different ways of working, right? So I know of individuals who say, well, I'm very clear on what I want. My team has to look a certain way. Like we have to all think a certain way. There must be like kind of like a group mentality. Whereas for me, I like to work with people who are a little bit different from myself, whether they can share different perspectives or we have different working styles, but like the underlying vibe is good to go. You know, we don't have to be the same people. As long as we're able to work together, I'm good. So what about yourself?
Wow, such a great question. Calling me out, because I think I try to find people who are like the same vibe, but that is a problem. But I also know that, okay, I'm a huge people pleaser. So if I get somebody who is like too opposing of like me, I will usually just like, okay, you do what you want lah. Yeah, you just do what you want. And then I will just like try to please that person. Yeah. So I think for now, like I know I cannot control that people pleaser side that well. I just try to stick with people who are around the same vibe, but yet they have maybe different skill sets.
Yeah.
So for example, my apprentice, she's like a really, really amazing calligrapher and graphic designer. And my other senior artist, she's also really good at branding. So I'm really good at marketing. So I just like outsource in that sense. But we still kind of, you know, because we vibe the same.
Yeah.
So it's easier to communicate also.
Right.
Yeah. Now still baby stage.
Yes. So I do have a question that might be a little bit like sensitive, okay? So I think one of the concerns that entrepreneurs or like, you know, like business owners have is that when, for example, you say that you have an apprentice, right? Or let's say, for example, some people have like personal assistants or like interns even, you know, there's this kind of like fear that maybe one day, you know, they are gonna take whatever they learn from me and then start their own rival business and whatnot. Like, is that a fear for you? And like, what are your thoughts about that?
I think back when I first started out, that was like a huge fear. But now I totally do not care because I am not only sure of what I can offer to the world, I also know that nobody else can replicate what I do. Yeah, and which applies the same to the other person also.
Yeah.
So let's say, for example, one day one of my artists tells me that she wants to start a brand, like a Jagua brand of her own. I will be more than happy, because I think with her own unique set of experiences and skill sets, it would definitely be a very, very different brand that serves different people as compared to like hand-drawn.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't really like to like hold on to things that are not meant to be also.
100%.
So, yeah lor, so I just try to like 看开一点.
Yes.
What is it in English?
Basically be chill about things.
Yeah,
lah,
just be very chill lor,
Yeah.
and just also be very self-assured lah, in that sense.
Yes. I mean, I agree with you. It was a journey to get there, because I think, I don't know why, like, especially in a Singaporean school environment, like things can get very competitive very, very fast. And what I realized going into art school was that there are two very distinct types of people, you know, people who want to like bring, like, hype you up and lift you up, you know, and then people who want to tear you down. Like, so it's about understanding that actually, so when I speak to people, because honestly, I was a bit like cautious going into an art school, right? Where like the community is so small, means opportunities are also very limited. And it was something that I had to learn as well. And when I had conversations with my friends who were more than willing to like celebrate one another and celebrate like each other as creatives, and I said like why is it that, you know, all of you are so positive and also able to celebrate one another, yet there's this other bunch of people who are like critical of works, and also like extremely like, you know, gatekeeping, very like do not want to share anything, you know. So like, why is it that these two kinds of people in the creative space, and like how do you be what you are? And they said that it's really because, as you said, every artist, every creative is their own person, right? It is because your creativity is literally your own. You there's no copying, you know. You cannot replicate it, and AI cannot replicate, you know, the work that you do, especially when as creatives your work come from like your soul, right? Your emotions. So that's, and then they said if you use that as the baseline, then the next step of thinking would be that, well, then you cannot be replaced, which also means that everyone has their own niche space within a creative industry. So if you look at it from that perspective, and if let's say like all your different friends are successful in their own ways, then as a group, you're able to then share resources, for example, share networks,
100%.
you know, opportunities. And then all of you are able to then maybe go on like a larger level, larger scale, right? You can even perhaps think global one day. And I was like, damn, that's such like a great thing to think about. Because while everyone else is competing on a like class, like, you know, class test level, you know, or like class project level, like here we have like a group of people who are ready to conquer the world, you know? So that is something that I 100% agree with when it comes to, you know, being open-minded and also like chill, you know. Especially today, I feel like everyone is like ready to do their own thing, right? And sometimes you might be a bit scared that like if someone else's success is gonna be, you know, affecting my own success. But because the world now is so big, you know, with the internet, with social media, it feels like, hey, suddenly my audience can go beyond just my friend group or like my social circle. Suddenly like all these different people from all around Singapore, all around the region can be exposed to whatever anyone is doing. So with that, I feel like everyone's playground is a lot bigger now, and we can all exist, you know, on the same space. So
people are still tearing each other down, to be honest, I feel.
I think that there's still that. And I hope that, I mean, I would think that for this podcast, most of the listeners are younger, that, you know, the people who set the context or set the environment that we exist in are based on what they put out, or the attitudes that they have. So if we can have more people who are a bit more open-minded, less competitive, less like cutthroat, then the future world that we have, especially in a creative industry that's so tiny like ours, like it will manifest and grow in that
100%.
direction. Speaking of art, right, I would think that it is currently a new phase for the Singapore creative industry, whereby I think today a lot of artists, a lot of creatives are able to say that, okay, I can confidently look at this as a career path, maybe not like as secure as like a full-time job in finance, for example, but it is no longer like okay, maybe I go for a full-time job and then I do my creative work on the side.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of people are now saying, okay, I can do this as a full-time job. So if you have any words of encouragement for young artists or young creatives out there, what would it be?
Wow, so many things I can say. Just don't fear, lor. Yeah. When you find that you are being scared to do something, it just means that you have to do it. Because the opposite side of fear is a growth zone, like literally. Like after you overcome that fear, you would realize that, hey, I can actually achieve so much. And like from just now, like what you said, I think we used to fight over visibility in Singapore. But then now when we just regard it as like, okay, it's totally possible. And then everything changes when your perspective just opens up. And in reality, I don't think anything physical has changed. It's not that automatically 10,000 creative jobs open up or whatever, but it's just our perspective on the whole scene in general. It switched from something that was so limiting, very fear-based, to something that's like, oh, my potential actually is now limitless. And we could achieve, and we start to like even want to achieve so much more. So I think really just don't fear, just do.
Absolutely. And always think like, what's the worst that can happen? Literally, like you have nothing to lose. If you're just starting out, you have nothing to lose, So if you try and that leads to success, then hey, that's a bonus, right?
Yes,
so
exactly.
I think that's absolutely the attitude to have. I think, guys, we have come to the mark of like has it been an hour long or so? But I hope that you've enjoyed this podcast. Thank you so much, Simin, for joining us. I hope you had fun.
Yeah, so fun.
This is your first podcast, right? I think you did absolutely well, man.
Thank you. Coming from
Many
you.
more to come.
Hopefully.
Yes. All right, Simin, before we leave, if anyone wants to find you on social media, where can they find you?
You can find me on Instagram at hen.drawn, HENN.drawn, and TikTok at SMXNE. It's such a mouthful.
Yes, I hope you got that down. Please go follow her. It's going to make your IG feed beautiful. I can guarantee you that. Okay, and on For Now Academy, you can follow us at NOWACA. How do you spell Academy? DEMYSG. Now Academy SG on Instagram. And if you want to follow me on Instagram, it's LimXJoel. That's LIMXJOEL. Once again, guys, thank you so much for listening to this podcast. This is the Next Level Podcast.